If you're a small business owner tired of overcomplicated sales and marketing, this episode is for you. Tom Freedman, founder and CEO of Defiant Enterprises, joins us to share how he built a thriving consultancy by doing the opposite of what most growth gurus preach. His signature 5-step simple and easy growth process has helped countless entrepreneurs cut through the noise, ditch the overwhelm, and build sustainable client pipelines rooted in relationships, not gimmicks. In this conversation, Tom opens up about his journey into entrepreneurship, the mindset shift that fueled his success, and why starting with the ideal profit, not your to-do list, is key to growth. We dig into how he serves his clients, the systems that makes his model work, and how any founder can grow without burnout. Whether you're just started or scaling fast, Tom's advice will help you rethink what it takes to grow and scale your business. So for the listeners who aren't familiar with your work, can you break down the 5-step simple, easy growth process and now how each stage helps small business owners grow?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. We brought this down into a sequential and codified process to help a lot of small business owners color by numbers for simple and easy growth. The first step is always modeling. Modeling just comes down to let's make sure that your profitability and the model for growth makes absolute sense. Before you build a monster that you're going to absolutely despise, make sure that the model makes sense so that you're growing something that you absolutely love. The second step that we always go through is positioning. We call this SAM. If SAM is healthy, your business will likely be healthy. If a part of SAM is not, your business will likely suffer the consequences. SAM looks like this. Make sure you package your solution properly. Your audience is very accessible and the right audience for your specific solution. And the last one, the most powerful part, is messaging. It's not just what you say, but it must have a clear, concise, compelling, and consistent message across all channels. The third step that we go into is always managing. Managing is where your tech and infrastructure come into play. If you don't have the right workflows and the right resources behind you, doing your job on a regular basis is tremendously hard. So we just need to make sure that you have the right tools and resources to execute properly. The fourth step, this is networking, which is tongue in cheek, since we actually try to turn networking into strategic business development. This is a very intentional ecosystem that you create to make sure that you get in front of the right people so that you have conversations that can turn into clients, which brings us right into the last step, and this is converting. Converting is where we really dive into your sales process to streamline the ability to qualify leads properly, and if they're interested, convert them to ideal clients. But if they are not, how to intentionally recycle them back into your ecosystem for the highest level of value and ensure that the power of your network increases one person at a time. After you have all 5 steps together, Mark, we leave all of our clients with a simple and easy way to grow.
There's a lot of information there, and I want to break down that so that my audience understand it. You explained it perfectly, but which one of the 5 steps for you is the one that most of your clients struggle with?
Yeah, so most of the people that struggle the most is actually on step 2, which is positioning, right? Or at least that's what they think they struggle with the most, meaning that they have a really good core competency, but people aren't paying attention to them the way that they want them to pay attention. So typically there's an issue with how they bundle their services or products. They're going after the wrong target audience, or Mark, you probably see this a lot. Everybody can be a customer, right? Which is a huge mistake. Or the third one, and again, like I mentioned when I was going through the steps, your most powerful tool as a small business owner is your message. So if your message is not clear, concise, compelling, or consistent, it doesn't matter how awesome your product or service is, you're going to struggle with growth. Now, to answer your question, though, properly, is this. I think a lot of people originally come to me because of the issue of step two positioning. But before we get there, I cannot tell you how many times we come across an issue with modeling, meaning people are working way too hard for a business model that is either very difficult to be successful, or even if you are successful, you'll hate it. So modeling is really important to do first, but most people come to me because they legitimately have positioning issues, at least in the beginning.
How did you come up with creating these steps? What was the process behind it, and how were you developing to make this 5 easy steps for people?
Yeah, so I approached the project in two different ways. I'll say one is classical A B testing. In other words, just really going through and the trials and errors and doing it in a very objective fashion, right? The other side is I approached it like any idiot, and that is let's keep trying until you get it right. Maybe I'm a bit more dense than other folks, but it took me nearly a quarter century to figure this thing out properly. But 25 years of trial and error, as well as very deliberate research, is where I bring in the value for my clients. Instead of them spending 25 years to figure it out, they can condense it into a program that is very clear and concise on exactly how to get them from A to B.
And you talk about with your method, with your methodology, that you reverse engineer profit goals. Why is that such an important starting point for business owners?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think people confuse either client acquisition or revenue growth with bottom line. In other words, for most small business owners, they don't create a business because they think they're going to be Jeff Bezos tomorrow. Most people have no intentions of doing that, nor this with the utmost respect, nor do they have any chance of even getting there, even if they do have those ambitions, right? Most small business owners, especially in my ecosystem, want something simple and something easy that they can wrap their hands around, whether it's just them or they have an employee count of 5, 10, 50 people, whatever it may be. It's like family to them, right? It's very important. It's an extension of who they are as a human being. And so it's really important that the take home, the profit must come first. What do you want the business to spit out so that it's worth their time and everybody else that's included in the business? Make it worth their time as well. Remember, for business, it's not what you bring in, it's what you get to keep. So we have to actually start with that first, then reverse engineer it and say, what's the best way to get to that number as opposed to number of clients, dollars through the door, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I agree with the whole idea of profit measuring because but I hear this all the time from other business owners on social media everywhere that if you increase your revenue, it'll work itself out. Like you like the more dollars you bring in, the bigger the problem, but the bigger you can solve that profitability problem by scaling. What do you say when you hear people say that?
Two things to come to mind immediately. The first one is that's an adorable idea, but in execution, it doesn't really work that way. And for two reasons. Number one is a cash flow issue. For instance, more revenue coming through the door does not necessarily mean that you're going to that you're going to have a sustainable business, because it really comes down to things like your ARAP policy, right? Like, where are you collecting money? What if somebody doesn't pay you and you have a bunch of operational costs that are going out, for instance, but not enough coming in? And as that starts to increase, the complexity of your business as well as the risk of the business increases tremendously. So there's not a really sincere way of just saying more problems, right, can be solved with more money. It doesn't really equate that way. The second one, and this is really tried and true to a lot of your listeners here today, and that is I find that there are two different types of small business owners. One that has a Midas touch of scaling, they can handle it. They are built to do it. And others that need to remain small. And there's nothing wrong with either one. You just need to understand what your strengths are so that you can make sure that the profit makes sense in any model that you adhere to. But as things start to grow, I've seen small business owners do absolutely wonderful in the small business world. But once it gets beyond their core competency and they start scaling to a much larger business, they need to either fire themselves and find somebody else that's good with that, or actually pull back intentionally and stay small where their core competencies lie. So, to answer your question, does more money actually solve more problems? Only sometimes. In reality, it does not. You're either very good at scaling your business and you can account for that, or those problems will ruin you despite the fact that you have more money coming through the doors.
How do people do that assessment? Because people might be starting a business, they might be getting investment and they're looking for funding and they're building their business very aggressively. What are the questions that you ask people, or what are the questions that you suggest people think about whether they have the competency and actually the desire as well to actually scale a business? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, two things. First of all, people need to do a rocking chair assessment for themselves. What I mean by that is this. There's a rocking chair actually behind me, and that is get everybody out of the room, just yourself, no distractions, no nothing, and have a really good conversation with yourself and say, what is important to me? What do I want my life to really look like? And I'm not saying that as a life coach. I'm saying this as a legitimate business owner, right? And that is, you have the creative power to do whatever you want. So don't just make decisions believing that bigger is better just for the sake of you think that's the only way to succeed. It's not. You really need to sit in that rocking chair and say, what do you want your business to look like? What your life should look like? What is worth it for you? And that answer is different for everybody. So, number one, Mark, is this: be honest with yourself. Know exactly what you want to achieve, and don't worry about what other people think about it. It has to be your decision, right? The other assessment that you have to go through is this, Mark: don't bite off more than you can chew. There are a bunch of like raw leaders out there that just say yes to everything and then figure it out. I really disagree with that. The luxury that we have as human beings is that we constantly have a throttle. In other words, titrate your examples. Titrate your examples. Don't do one or nothing, or all or nothing approach. Rather, do things like this. I'm going to carefully try to grow and scale, right? Doing like tiny little steps at a time, and then go back and reflect on it. Am I good at it? Does this seem feasible to me? Do I like it? But that allows you to pivot and make small micro changes to your life and your business, as opposed to getting things that like you just get hyped up and go, I'm going to own the world, right? And you just start like growing and scaling like super, super fast. There are only a smidgen, a teeny tiny percent of the population that can either do that effectively because they truly are that good, or the other ones straight up just have a ton of luck behind them. But most small business owners, what they do is succeed and fail in very small micro increments and eventually get to where they want to go. The answer is sit your butt in a rocking chair, figure out what you want
Love it.
first. And then the second thing is carefully succeed and fail in micro commitments. That
Yeah,
will
I,
really
I
help
think it's a
guide the way.
really interesting example because you've done the mindset, what reflects on yourself, what do you think you can achieve, and then you've actually given examples of moving up the process of revenue and do you like it? Is it something you're good at? Is it so it's a competency as well as a mindset thing? And I think that's what the missing piece of the jigsaw for a lot of people is they might do one, but they might not do the other. They might do the mindset and then they're not very good at it, or they are good at it but they don't enjoy it. That's what, like you've said, doing the rocking chair. I think we, as business owners, we need to ignore the social media feeds that are raw. You have to have the $1 billion business or you're a loser.
Mm.
Like, just taper that down. Let's just ignore that and just make the decisions on real life examples. What's really happening in your life that I think will make people happier, not necessarily be chasing the dollar signs. Just make sure that part of the process of being an entrepreneur as a business owner is that you're supposed to enjoy it. Like, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be things that light you up, that excite you. And if you're going in the wrong direction, you need to think about how you're able to manage that.
Brilliantly said. And one thing that I wanted to come to mind or say here on this one is I had an excellent mentor of mine that opened a path for me that I would have never seen before. I have 3 children of my own. Love them all sincerely. And he asked me this: what would you like them to do as a pursuit in their career? And I answered any good dad, and I said, as long as they're happy, then I'm happy. And he was like, now tell me the answer that you really believe. And I said, that's true. But I am partial to, I would at least like them to try to be an entrepreneur, since that's what I have been my entire adult life and really believe in it, although it's not for everybody, correct?
Yeah.
But he said this: if you want your kids to stand a chance of wanting to be an entrepreneur, then you have one objective that you need to always stay top of mind. And that is, whatever you project on a day-to-day basis to your kids is how they're going to perceive entrepreneurship. So if they see you bent out of shape all the time, constantly stressed out, on a roller coaster ride, ready to pull your hair out and things like that, they view entrepreneurship as a challenge and a block to their own life and love, right? Whereas even if things are good or bad, they view you as, dad loved his pursuit all the time. Like, he was always enjoying life, whether it was good, bad, whatever, for the business. He was in it, loved it, and that was part of him. They will absorb that and probably want to at least explore the opportunities of what that looks like on their own. So I thought that was hugely impactful. And let me tell you, I wish I was perfect at it. I'm not, but at least I'm aware of it and try to do my best every day of projecting that entrepreneurship is, right, a fantastic avenue to at least explore.
100%. Look, I wasn't expecting us to go into children, but yeah, exactly. It's when you're so I've got 2 young girls, 9 and 11, and they see me pursuing my dream, and it's incredibly impactful for me to see me pursuing my dream. But I don't hide away the struggles. Like, you need to show that it is a roller coaster. Like, you might still be following your dream, but it is a bit of a roller coaster. So I think it's a really interesting thing I think on bringing children up when it comes to entrepreneurship, it should be equal measure of, I'm following my passion and I love what I do, but it's not easy.
That's right. Yes.
And I think we need to show both sides of that it's not easy as well to our kids, so they don't have the fantasy that it is rather than what the realities are.
No, and I think you're right. And I know that you probably on this particular discussion didn't want to get too philosophical, but
no, let's go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. Ultimately, what it comes down to is, if there are no problems, we have no existence, especially in business. So in other words, like, we are paid, right? And we exist to solve somebody else's problems, right? So problems are like the most important thing in life. This is what actually carves us out and makes us who we are. The more challenging and more triumphs that we have over these challenges, right, the more that people value us. Why? Because we want to actually latch on to people that are real, that actually had challenges and then found a way to get around them, both psychologically, right, as well as all the rest of the dots that need to be connected for tactical execution, right? So when it comes down to it, I think you're right. Like, you need to show your kids and everybody else around you that it's not easy, but how you approach those problems has to be with acceptance, gratitude, and grace. Like, you have to do that, No matter
Yeah.
how hard it gets, like you have to try to avoid just yelling like expletives and have
Yeah.
no strategy. At once you get over your emotional reaction to roller coaster rides, you have to take a moment of reflection and say, okay, this is reality. Now let's solve the challenges that I choose to solve. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
Amazing.
that's
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
in life.
Amazing. So, what inspired you to start Defiant Enterprises, and how did your own experiences impact that decision to start this business?
Yeah, for sure. On the surface level, I solve one big problem, and that is I don't care what your profession is. If you do some research and the data, exact data, differs between the industries, but what you'll find is this: the vast majority, and I mean in some industries, almost all of your clients come from connections, introductions, and referrals. So while you have all these people chasing a million different ways to get leads and do all of this stuff, what the research will tell you is this: that people do business with other people that they know and trust. Everybody nods their head on that and goes, of course,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
But for whatever reason, right, we like poo poo the idea of that being like too elementary to like actually explore as a system, a reliable process that will build your company. And so what do? We go, let's make things more complicated than they need to be. So I'm going to spend a bunch of money and do all of this stuff in all kinds of just very elaborate schemes of getting in front of everybody through branding efforts and lead generation and dot dot. When it comes down to it, though, small business world is very simple. And that is, you must know who you are, how you fit into the marketplace, and find the right relationships so that you can get in front of your target audience and turn conversations into clients or intentionally build a network to do so. If you have the right people behind you and can get in front of the right people with a really compelling message, well, Mark, the rest is history. Like you can do what you want to do, right? So I created a business that took a simple fact and a simple concept that most of your clients are going to be coming from connections, introductions, and referrals, and created it systematically. Now I'll hit pause for a second. That is what we do like transactionally, surface level for our company. Why did I do for other companies? Why do I choose to do this though? In my life, right? I think that it was nearly impossible to be a really good human being when you're in the world of survivalism. It's impossible. In fact, if I were to take you right now and dunk your head under the water and then ask you a question, right? When are your daughter's birthdays and what do they want as a gift? I highly doubt that you could answer appropriately, right? So,
Yeah.
like, breathe that in for a second and go, business is the same way. When you don't have enough money, right? Or when your firefighting is just so crazy every day that your head is being dunked underwater, it's impossible to be a great leader. It's impossible to be a great husband. It's impossible to be a great friend, partner, so on and so forth. So, when I feel like I can help another company get rid of that stress and that survivalism, it not only makes them a better leader, a better business person, but it makes them just a better human being in general.
That's amazing. Because I think a lot of people, you said at the start, the first element of it is a transactional basis. But business owners really need that because a lot of people, they might be going through a downturn in their business for whatever reason. And your relationship driven lead generation, I think, is absolute genius. So many people are chasing paid ads and SEO and LinkedIn and everything like that, that a lot of them forget you already have a network of people around you. You
Mm.
might be part of a networking group, which gives you another network of people around you. You might be part of a few. But actually, the relationships that you already have are going to be, can be impactful if you're asking the right questions and exploring those opportunities with them. So, just talk to me a little bit more about this relationship driven lead generation idea that you have.
Of course, yeah. I'll start with a comment that I want for myself and anybody that I work with. And that is this: when you reach a stage where if every client of yours right now left you, called you up and said, Mark, I'm done, cancel my account, could you rebuild your entire portfolio in 90 days or less with approximately 3 to 5 people? Could you do that? And if the answer is no, then I think that there's a level of stress behind what you do that is holding you back from your full potential as a human and a business person. Why? Because, like, for myself, I know this: no matter how good or bad times are, right? Like, my business could literally get burned to the ground and I can rebuild it in 90 days. That gives you a freedom to make some choices, right? That, like, a lot of people would never take because they have to remain safe and they don't have that blanket behind them. Now, I'm using 90 days as, like, obviously just a normal litmus test for the people that I work with in an ecosystem, but maybe your business is a little bit more complicated than that and needs a little bit of time. The concept is the most important part. And that is, if you don't have a system behind you that literally needs nothing to rebuild what you have, well, then you have complete freedom and creativity. If you don't, you will be struggling and always have an issue behind you that is going to cause a lot of intense anxiety as you go through. So, talking to you about the specifics of that is this: not everybody is created equal or has a certain amount of value in your network. You must be very intentional on who you spend your time and attention on. So, for instance, these people that we call like super connectors or your referral partners or your COIs or whatever you want to call them, and it doesn't make a difference. They have to be so tried and true to your ecosystem that they know, you know, that they are 100% definite assets to the two of you from a reciprocal format that you can make your ships rise at any level or intensity you want. Let me make this clear. For, let's say, I have three, I'll have, if I had to choose 3 partners of my own, if I like had to rebuild my own life, we could go back and get each other in front of decision makers in our target audience at whatever volume within reason that we wanted to. And because I have a sales process that I know that a certain amount of conversations can turn into one ideal client, I can make literally a strategy for a client acquisition necessary depending on what that level is. But most people do this. They look at networking as, I'm going to keep meeting people and I'm going to keep the best intentions at heart, but I'm not really going to manage and identify, nurture certain relationships that are clear assets to me. Everybody else is a contact and can fit into your network in some which way, but are not the same as your true super connectors or your COIs, or again, whatever you call them. If I could tell any small business owner to focus their attention is, as fast as humanly possible, find 3 to 5 of your absolute best referral partners that can get you in front of decision makers in your target audience space. When you have that, you have a lead generation system that nobody can take away from you. Why? Because it's a relationship. So if you're getting most of your leads, for instance, on Facebook or something like that, Zuckerberg could wake up tomorrow, right, and change the rules on you. Like, it's his call, not your call. You don't own any of that. You think you do, but you don't. We're a relationship. Mark, if you and I have a great relationship, I don't care what Zuckerberg says. I can still call you tomorrow. I can still meet you. I can still text you. I can still email you. It's my relationship. So that's the first and foremost, is you must find these people that have access on a regular basis to your decision makers and are willing to go back and forth and getting you in front of the right people. Without it, you will struggle.
Was there a specific turning point in your career that made you decide to go down this particular avenue that you have when it comes to lead generation, relationships? Was there something that really changed your emphasis in your career?
Yeah, for sure. I woke up one day, and this was after oversleeping and missing one of my meetings in the morning. And I overslept because the night before, or the day before, I worked a full 16-hour days straight. doing all different types of things for lead generation, client meetings, you name it, right? Like we have a million things that we had to do. And it was a full 16-hour day. I was absolutely exhausted, missed my next meeting. And my head was like just spinning in every direction. I was like then doing catch up, and like I got off to a rough start. Long story short, the end of that day, I was literally in misery, right? Misery. I was exhausted. I felt behind, everything like that. So I had to stop at the end of the day and said, what in the world am I even doing this for? Like, why is it this hard? I have a small business, right? This isn't like I'm not running an airline. This is just like a very small business. It cannot be this complicated. It can't be that way. So I set from that day forward, I'm never going to have a day like this again, that I'm going to cut out, right, as much noise as I possibly can. And I'm going to be relentless and ruthless with regard to if it doesn't produce direct results, I'm not doing it, right? And that led me on a path to constantly reviewing everything with scrutiny. And so for my ecosystem of small business owners, whether it's solo, micro, or small, I can tell you this. If you choose to do a bunch of different things, that is your choice. But for any small business, and I'm talking about, let's say, 100 million ARR and less, you can get all your client acquisitions from straight relationships, from connections, introductions, and referrals. If you do that really well, you can cut out a lot of money, a lot of wasted time, a lot of headaches, a lot of stress, a lot of all of this stuff. And all you have to do is wake up every single day, manage those relationships properly, and you'll have all the client acquisitions that you want. And that'll solve at least one big problem of running a company. Right? There's a yin and a yang to a company. In simplicity, there is the growth side of a company and the operations side of the company. That's the two yin and yang. Get those two correct, and guess what? Problem solved. If one of them fails, correct it, or you're going to die. You know what I mean? So, like, my side is this: focus on your relationships, be very intentional with who you're spending your time with, right? So that you make just a really simple model for growth. And that is Mark, meet Bob. Bob, Mark is my go-to in this particular space. Worth the conversation. It's as simple as that. The conversion for you, Mark, is a million times better. It's a lot easier because you're really just having a nice conversation instead of some cold, weird transactional sale. And if everybody could do that in the small business world, life would be a lot easier.
So what I love about your approach is that it's the simplicity of it. And business can be an incredibly complicated, lots of different areas, lots of different priorities as well. Why aren't more people doing this?
I think everybody tries, Mark. I think that there are very few people on planet Earth that I've talked to that when I say something like, hey, your best clients are going to come from connections, introductions, and referrals, right? And they all go, yeah, of course. And so they acknowledge that. And most people really know it, whether it's by theory or by, let's say, for yourself, right? Like, I can guarantee you that if I asked you that question today, like, tell me about some of your best clients and where they came from, I would bet that you would say from a referral, right? Or from some type of really warm introduction. So everybody knows it. I think that the issue is, Mark, you have to be very intentional and know exactly how to manage this type of system. Why? Because the moment that you accept another relationship in your life, right, you have to make a commitment to keep the relationship so that it's healthy. For instance, let's look at it like this. You have two girls. Imagine what your life would be if you had three girls, or four, five girls. You say
that would be far too much. That's why I stopped at two.
Yes. So here's what I'm saying to most folks, Mark. The issue with anybody that's trying to get introductions, referrals, or doing general networking, they literally are trying to manage a family with 355 girls, right? You cannot do that. You can't do it. So, like, the more is not better here. right? Better is better. And you have to look at it as, I'm not kidding you when I say this. Like, I could literally rebuild my business anytime I want with 3 human beings in my life. That's it. 3 partners, and I can literally go back and forth, rebuild my entire pipeline, rebuild all my client portfolio like that. Everybody that I talk to in the small business space, whether they are, again, literally startup ideology or making 30, $50 million in annual like revenue, right? These folks can completely rebuild an entire portfolio the same way with approximately 3 to 8 human beings on planet Earth. Find them, love them, appreciate them, manage the relationship properly, and it's so much easier. But instead of what everybody does, Mark, is this: let's do another one-on-one, right? And then whatever that one-on-one goes, right? Like, you finish the one-on-one, you go, oh, this is great talking to you. I've got like another meeting in 5 minutes. And that person that you just talked to doesn't even get a follow-up. You don't even update the notes. You have no idea like where they even fall in your ecosystem. And so they fall off into the ether, and then onward and upward of the next and the next and the next. And all it is a volume play with no intentionality. And the issue is, it is the most ineffective and inefficient way to approach business. And then they all say this, Mark: I give and give, but don't receive back. This networking thing isn't working for me. And I'm like, that you haven't even tried to network properly yet. You don't understand how to do it. So ultimately, what I'm saying to everybody is this: equate your pipeline development like you would your family.
So
Imagine what
is
another child or another really like great friend of yours would
yeah.
require from your time and attention.
At what size do you sort of cap out and say you're now too big for that 3, 4, 5 people to be impactful? Because you must get to a certain scale where those relationships still can be incredibly valuable, but the business has grown beyond 3 people's relationships.
2 ways to answer that. Number one is this: you're wasting your time with any type of like marketing and or things like that with regard to spending money to try to make money until you approximately, this differs for industries, but about $3 million in profit. Then you can start actually considering marketing initiatives to support the business development efforts that I just talked about.
Okay.
So it's not like you outgrow it and you go, these relationships aren't important to me
No,
anymore. It's
no, that
just,
wasn't what I was saying. Yeah.
yeah, of course. Yeah. It's just once you reach about $3 million in net profit, then it
Yeah.
allows you to say, I have a budget that I can really start to like inject marketing into my strategy to help parallel it. The second thing is this: it's 100% scalable and never gets beyond approximately, let's say, 3 to 8 really strong relationships with maybe, let's say, the same amount to support it just in case, right? One person takes vacation, right? Or like changes positions or whatever it may be, right? So let's just call that 10, 20 people in your entire intentional network that you need. It never changes. Why, Mark? Because it becomes scalable for a business in this: if I can do that for you, Mark, and say, I want you to create your business to make, let's say, $5 million ARR for yourself. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then you say, I want to scale this business. Then what you do is you bring on 1, 2 like account representatives that do the same thing. But
Right.
your job is not to say, I have to teach myself how to manage 50 relationships. That's not possible. Like, you have to say this: once I hit my limit and I've capped my profitability out, the way that I scale my company is to make a second me, another profit unit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So in your own business, what stage are you in? And it might be intentional, but what stage are you in? Do you have employees? Do you have people that are like other alternatives to you for be able to grow your business? Or is it intentionally that you've said, I'm gonna cap my business then because it works for my lifestyle?
Love that question. So I've owned 6 different businesses over 26 years. I absolutely love entrepreneurship. And I've had businesses where I've had anywhere between just myself to 150 belly buttons underneath of me. What I experienced was this: I am not good at the larger and scaling company. I tend to do it. I hate it. I'm just not, I don't have that in me. I couldn't do an off switch. And with these companies that I had larger employee counts, I had phenomenal people working and supporting me. I could not do it, Mark. And maybe I had to work with a better coach or whatever, and maybe I could have changed it, but it didn't fit me well. So I've been like from literally 1 to 150 belly buttons and in between. What I can say is this: where I am today, after actually trying to beat this thing to death over 26 years, I want a business that is simple as possible. My model looks like this: I have myself, I have very specific contractors that do paralleling things that are necessary when clients need them, right? They are almost like employees. That we have a very deep relationship with these folks to be able to do it. I don't want employees anymore. I've already experienced that in my life. It's not good or bad. It's just, this is what I want from my life. And revenue wise, being very clear, I want to make my company so that it's generating anywhere between 500 and $1.5 million myself, with a net profit margin of approximately, we'll call it 80 to 90%, which means that I keep almost all of the money, right? I like it simple. I don't need to own the world. What I want is a very good living with complete freedom and a simple system that I can wake up, enjoy a cup of coffee, take a walk in the morning, and not feel stressed out every day on what I'm doing and where I fit into the marketplace.
Would you say your skills are based on entrepreneurship or the operational side of your business?
I think both. Again, there's a yin and yang to a business. There is the growth side and then the operations side. And if you screw one up, you're going to pay the consequences. And what I mean by that is, if you're asking me where my best core competencies lie, it will be on the growth side, not the operations side. But because I've owned so many different companies, as well as been a part of a lot of companies, I can help a lot of folks out until they go beyond my operational capacity, right? But what I can tell you is this, right? Don't overthink operations. Operations looks like this: if you hate your life, then your operations sucks. We'll fix it. You know what I mean? Don't overthink it. If you don't like your life, then operations, there's something wrong with operations, right? Whereas if you're getting bad clients or not getting enough clients or something like that, then there's an issue with your growth model or SAM, right? Solution, audience, and message. Fix it. But it's a constant flow of literally sitting in a rocking chair going how was this week? Did I enjoy myself? Am I making the money that I like, that I'd like to make? And do I enjoy my work life? Is it good? And if the answer is yes, then continue it forward. If the answer is no, then look at the yin and yang. What's messed up with operations? Why do I hate waking up in the morning? Or the second thing is, why can't I acquire the right clients? What's the issue? Is my message off? Am I choosing the wrong target audience? Am I not packaging what I'm doing properly? I don't know, but figure it out, right? You get that balance of growth and operations, and you will enjoy your life a heck of a lot more.
Who's your ideal client?
My ideal client is a solo, micro, or small business owner that does not want to take over the world. They want to make a really good living. And most of my clients are in the B2B services space. It's not that I don't work with other people, but my model is tried and true in that particular ecosystem and can do really well. I understand it very well, right? And I know that it has worked from proven cases multiple times over. When it starts getting into B2C or nonprofit lane, I've worked with those folks before, but it's nowhere near the core competency that I have or the confidence that I have going, I 100% can help you, versus I'm 80% sure I can help you. So that's my ideal client, is somebody that literally just wants a simple and easy way to grow in a business that they can really enjoy so they can be a better human being on planet Earth. That's my ideal client.
So let's deal with it. You mentioned this earlier on about being a better human being, the planet Earth. I want to explore that because a lot of business owners, that's not a priority. Their priority is revenue, profitability. It sometimes isn't even relationships. They burn through relationships so fast. It's so important for you to work with people that want to be on this earth for a positive reason.
Because like any jerk, any a-hole can like literally grow a business by exceeding effort limits required to do the work, right? Anybody can do that, right? And when people say, I'm willing to go to the ends of the earth to meet this particular goal, what they haven't realized is this, that every choice that you make has ramifications to it, right? So, in other words, yes, that's admirable that you made that choice for the business. But because you choose to do this, that means that other areas in your life will suffer, right?
Yeah.
And it's just not required, Mark. Like the reason that they make these commitments is because they're looking through a lens of growing their business of all or nothing. In other words, they say like they have a misconstrued, right, perception that owning and growing a small business requires your full attention and demand. It does not, right? But in their view, they go, the only way that I'm going to get to the top is by like outworking like the required work effort or outworking everybody else. It's the wrong lens to look through. So while I'm empathetic with that view because they truly believe in it, it's just wrong. The desired leader is the one that still gets 8 hours of sleep. The desired leader is the one that wakes up, doesn't show up to work, yelling and screaming at everybody, and everything is a deadline tomorrow. The desired leader is somebody that is cool and confident and says, this is what we choose to focus on. And together, as a team, we're going to hit a very admirable goal that we all really agree on. And we're not going to chase squirrels, right? We're not going to solve all world issues. We are put on this planet to do this thing, and we're going to do it really well. Everything else is just tangential, and we choose not to do that. So, like, when it comes down to it, Mark, to answer your question, you can be a better person on planet Earth by literally just saying this: I don't need to own the planet. I don't need to solve all problems. I also don't need to spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make this business work, because if you do, there's a problem with operations. Fix it.
Okay. I've got an interesting question. I think it's an interesting question. So let's just say you met Elon Musk in his early 20s, or a Mark Zuckerberg just out of when he started Facebook, or a Jeff Bezos in the garage with his books. And they said to you, but I want to own the world. Because in essence, they want the empire. And I do think there's a difference between wanting an empire and having a big business versus those guys. But what would you say if you met one of those guys in their early 20s and they were saying, I want to own the world? What would be your response to that person?
It's a really good question, because it's subjective when it comes down to whatever your goals and ambitions are. My point is to say this, right? Whatever your perception, right, of what you want to achieve, if it can be achieved in a way that you can still be a good human being, then do it. Like Elon Musk and myself are on two different levels, right? Like his thought process of what he could achieve in his life is not even remotely close to my own concept of what I can handle and what I want. You know what I mean?
So my question is, would you go, look, thank you very much for your time. We're going in different directions. Good luck in what you do, and then push him out the door? Or would you be fascinated with what the thought process is to be able to get to that level? How would you approach that conversation?
I would love to learn more about it. But what you're talking about, Mark, are anomalies. In fact, if you've seen a lot of interviews with Elon Musk, or say somebody like a Michael Jordan or something like that, the theme is this, right? I wouldn't have been able to stop myself even if I wanted to.
Mm.
These are
Mm.
anomalies. These are people that are so driven, and the research done on their psychological capacity, they are outliers, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
problem with an outlier is this: they get a lot of attention, right?
Mm.
And so what other people think is, I can be like Michael Jordan. No, you can't. You know what I
No.
mean? You are
Yeah.
not Michael
Yeah.
Jordan. Now the problem with that is this: don't ever stop a Michael Jordan when you come across him. That's one in a billion that you come
Yeah.
across.
And you
You know what I'm
probably won't
saying?
meet them. Yeah. No, I get it. I 100% get it. And yeah, it's, as you say, you're fascinated with their mindset more than necessarily anything else, that they have that idea. And like the Michael Jordan thing is, I can't remember the exact quote, but I missed thousands and thousands of shots. Still won
Yeah,
all the championships, but I got up and I carried on, and it's like I missed this many shots, and then I missed this many number of shots to win a match,
that's
but
right.
I still went and I still did it. I don't know. It's just a fascinating, where you are focused on being a good person as well as being successful. Your definition of success. And it was the reason why I gave you that contrast was because your definition of success is different to their definition of success. Do you think you could be friends? Do you think you could have a relationship with someone that is that single-minded, that in essence they probably don't give a shit about you either?
And the answer is yes. And here's the other thing, and this is why it's so important, Mark. And that is, if you go back to the interviews of Michael Jordan, go watch them today. Especially, there was a great series on
Yeah,
whatever
on
Netflix or
Netflix.
something like
Yeah, it
that,
was
The
brilliant.
Last Dance or whatever it is, right? And the clear message is this, right? He literally said, I know I was a psychopath. Like, you couldn't have stopped me. Like, I was on a mission and I was unique, and it was just something that I couldn't stop. But the other message is this, Mark. He experienced so much pain and so
Yeah,
much regret with a lot of it, that here you're talking about the literally the best athlete on planet
yeah,
Earth, more achievements and accomplishments than you can possibly imagine. But the amount of pain and frustration that he has with his choices over the years
yeah,
and what he gave up in the process of
yeah,
doing so, he
yeah.
doesn't say, like, you when you watch the interviews, it's not
Yep.
like one of these things of going, I feel so blessed and so grateful that I
Mm.
made all the right choices in the world. He literally says this: man, I couldn't stop myself. I'm very proud of what I've achieved, but I missed this. I hate this about my life now. I can't go
Yeah.
anywhere without being swarmed by a million people. You know what I mean? So, like, the issue is when you find these overachievers and things like that, it's sad that nowadays, right, that there's not a good lens of going, are they
Yeah.
a balanced human being, though? Right?
Even a good person. And I think they would. I listened to the Elon Musk audio book, and he's riddled with regret. No, he isn't riddled with regret, but he will be when it's missing children's birthdays, being available for his kids. And he's always good with the kids in the first 3 years. And then they start developing their own personalities that he can't control. And then, yeah, I get it. I get it 100%. It's just you're so focused on your your way of success. I was interested in the contrast with the overachievers, and I think I'm more closely aligned with you, because one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur, where I started my own businesses, was I wanted to spend more time with my kids.
Yes.
I wanted to be available, and there's times when I do miss things, but I wanted to be available. That makes me a better human being, makes me happier.
Sure.
And so I'm 100% with you with that idea that there's more to life than your business or your career.
And here's the weird part, and this is the hard balance, right? Because you don't want to be an aloof loser, right? You don't want to do that, right? And give
Yeah,
yourself the I need to be grateful for everything that I have. I don't agree with that, right? I
yeah,
think that there are some people that need to get their stuff together because they're
yeah,
literally like neglecting part of their own lives and
yeah,
neglecting part of people like their kids or something like that because
mm,
they're aloof. You know what I mean?
mm,
So I don't subscribe to always be grateful and okay with where you're at. There needs to be
yeah,
some level of ambition, right?
yeah,
But then the next question becomes, when is enough? And asking
mm,
the question for yourself, like right now, Mark, let's say that in a normal year, I'm just throwing this out here. Let's say you have, let's say 15, 20 clients that you manage. We'll just throw the
yeah,
number out.
yeah.
Would you value your life any different if that was 40 clients versus 20 clients? And what about 400 clients versus
Well,
20
that's it,
clients?
isn't it?
I don't
That's it.
know. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. So, like for Michael Jordan, like in his eyes, like he's an anomaly because he had a path and like it was just so obsessive that he was going to be
Yeah,
driven to that. But if Michael Jordan was a regular human being, I would ask the same question of him and just say this: if you played for a over 40-year-old men's league and won the championship, would it be any different if you won the
yeah,
NCAA championship or let's say the NBA, right? I don't know. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I have no
yeah.
idea.
It's interesting. It's an interesting conversation. Thank you for being open to quite unusual questions, but so thank you.
It was fun.
Um, Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. I have the same 6 questions to all of my guests. Quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. First question is, what's the best decision that you've made?
Best decision I made was burning the boats on being an entrepreneur. If you don't do that, you'll always have one foot in, one foot out. And entrepreneurship is very difficult. When you try to believe that there are other avenues to travel, it makes it 10 times harder. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, burn the boats and figure it out.
Great. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Best piece of advice I've always been given is no matter what you're doing in your life, you are not the center of the universe. There are other people around you. Remember of what your actions are and how it reflects on other human beings. I wish that I could do that even better, but at least I'm aware of it.
Yeah, amazing. Who gave you that advice?
The advice came from my grandmother, which is one of the tattoos right here on my neck. She
Right.
always used to tell myself and everybody else in the family, love you to the moon and back. And that was her like constant phrase over and over again. She was probably one of the most centered human beings I've ever met. And her loss of when she passed was one that was transcending because I felt an obligation to take her wisdom and at least apply some of it moving forward.
And I assume you're sharing it with your children as well.
I am.
Good for you. Who's the person that's helped you most in your career?
I would say that the person that's helped me most was actually one of my first mentors before I opened my first adult business. It was a small stint of a year doing sales for an orthopedic supplies company. And this gentleman was absolutely phenomenal on a mission to grow his own business. But the hustle that he had was always balanced by being like a really aware human being and always being compassionate and empathetic to everybody that he had. And the time that I spent with him driving around, right, state by state and
Yeah.
hospital to hospital, I had these tidbits of information that really built who I wanted to be as a man and as a professional. So I'm very thankful for the short period of time and the grace that I had with him, right, to start my career.
Amazing. Tell me about a regret that you have.
A regret that I have and still have today was probably placing too much emphasis for too long on working too hard to achieve goals instead of like literally stepping back earlier in my career and correcting it, which is what I do for a lot of my clients today. Like instead, I was a subscriber of I can always outwork things. And because of it, right, it caused a lot of pain and suffering for myself and other people around me that was probably avoidable.
And does that impact your choices now?
100%.
Yeah.
In that, number one, I do my absolute best now to set up barriers that I don't get into things that could bring me back into those same mistakes. Wish I was perfect, but I'm not, but at least I'm aware of it. And the second thing is, I won't work with somebody that is bringing that type of energy and has no chance of finding balance in their life. Because
Mm.
somebody that is that chaotic, again, not only affects themselves but affects everybody around them, and it's very difficult to be around somebody that's that toxic.
Amazing. Yeah, 100% agree. Next question. Was there a time when you wanted to give up, and what made you pull through?
Countless times. I've lived anywhere from motel to mansion in my 26 career as an entrepreneur. And I cannot tell you how many times that I woke up in the morning and literally said, this isn't worth it. I'm going to throw in the towel and go do something else, make my life easier. But I made a decision again to burn the boats and figure it out and got through it. But I can tell you on a normal basis, if you're an entrepreneur, there are going to be many days that you're wanting to throw in the towel. And all I can tell you is there's no shame in throwing in the towel, but just sit back in that rocking chair and know the person that you want to be. If it must be an entrepreneur, then stop thinking about other avenues and figure out how to become a successful entrepreneur. If that's not in your deck of cards and not required to like actually be the person you want to be, then explore all options. There's a big life out there. There are many
Yeah.
ways that you can explore life.
Yeah. Tell me something that most people don't know about you.
What most people don't know about me, I think that a lot of people don't know probably the level of empath and compassion and empathy and how it affects me, especially being like pinned as like tattooed, right? Like a more aggressive,
Mm.
very like forward in my relationships. But I would say that there is probably 80% of me that is far more like compassionate and empathetic and means a lot and affects me in a good way and bad way.
Yeah. What does legacy mean to you?
Legacy for me is all about only the people that are close to me, because for me personally, legacy says this: if you, and this goes for anybody, if you want to make the world a better place, like I don't mean to do Michael Jackson here, but like make the world a better place, there are very few people that can like an influence change on a big stage. So if you want to make a difference, just find the people that are closest to you, and that is your kids, your friends, the people that are close to you at work, your community. Start there and see how like you can make an impact in just a small way. And if everybody was doing that in their own little like tiny circle of influence, geez,
Mm.
then we can make a big difference. But unfortunately, most of us think, what, Mark, right? There's no way I have the time or like the power to make like this huge shift in the world. You don't need to. Just go ahead and focus on like little things that you can control. That would be huge.
And lastly, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you or find out more about your business?
Yeah, for sure. Easiest way is go ahead and email me at tfreedman@defiantenterprises.com. Always picking up that. LinkedIn, you can go ahead and DM me there if you'd like. My website is www.defiantenterprises.com. But if you're a small business owner or thinking about getting into ownership, I'm always up for great conversations. Hit me up. I would love to meet you.
Look, that's it for today's episode of Business Growth Talks. A big thank you to Tom Freedman for his sharing such actionable insights, but also some really deep level conversations that we've had today around building businesses and making real connections. If you found value in this conversation, please do take a chance to be able to hit the subscribe button. And if you're enjoying this message, and if you're enjoying this show, then please do hit a review. It really does help the algorithm, and share this episode to the widest audience possible, because I know Tom will be able to help you. Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it, Mark.